Yeah. I just get impatient with this. Time to deal with reality. I don't understand. Like, if you don't want to deal with electoral politics, don't deal with electoral politics. But if you want to deal with electoral politics, then engage in the reality of the two choices that we have. And that's it.
Absolutely. And we can ramble on.
Cool. Yeah, let's play this quick clip from the Majority Report. This is a clip recently, like I said, from the Majority Report caller voicing some concerns about the strategy of supporting Kamala Harris, bringing up some pushback in regard to the third-party movement. Definitely excited to get your take on this one, Zach.
Absolutely. Let's play.
And I recognize that Biden has been better on labor, but every time I hear positive talk about Biden or hope regarding Harris, it strikes me as pretty tone-deaf and entitled, juxtaposed to your ongoing and excellent coverage of the genocide in Gaza and the ongoing effects of climate change. The Democratic Party may be the, quote, less bad option on election day, but they are the most effective roadblock that our elite has to fight against an end to imperialism and capitalism. They are not the most effective roadblock. I can assure you that
Trump's administration from
the Trump administration would be an even better roadblock
and actually benefited them. So yeah, how many times are we going to have to?
We're playing one game now. It's the game called Capital, not really, but the game called the general election for president. And I understand what you're saying. The Democratic Party is wildly insufficient, but I still think you can play your heart out at the game that's right in front of us and not wish that we're playing a different game, which, it was the same thing that bothered me about Hillary whining about, I won the popular vote. Well, the rules of the game were you got to win the electoral college. So play that game and we'll see how things go.
It's easier to say what isn't the vehicle toward delivering us into the future that we all want than saying what is. And is it the Green Party? Let's see what your actual solutions are. Because I think good. I think we overemphasize election day, and the organizing that's done outside of that is vastly more important and leads to the effects that we want on election day. But again, what do you think is the actual solution here?
But
She's going to get on the phone with Bibi day one, Matt. It's going to be over day one. Yes, Medicare for all, day one. Reparations, day one. Green New Deal, day one.
Yeah. And again, it's I hate to keep reiterating the same points over and over again, but if there was even a single example of a Green Party campaign in my lifetime moving the Democrats to the left or effectively pressuring them at all, I would be down for the strategy. I participated in it in hopes that would happen in 2016 and 2020. It didn't happen. Not only did it not happen, but then the Green Party completely failed to make good on their promise to build a movement in the wake of those elections. They basically went away. They didn't do anything, or if they did, they weren't successful in building their movement at all. I just think that at the end of the day, that's the analysis that has to be given until they get their shit together, until they nominate someone who's actually capable of leading a movement that could have a real effect.
I take issue with the assertion that they are the most effective roadblock that our elite has to fight against an end to imperialism and capitalism.
That's a Green Party talking point.
I just don't think that's true.
Thinking.
Bro, hey, shout out to Joe. We got the guy in our chat. This is the second time that's happened. The last time we were listening to a caller call into the Majority Report, they were listening into chat. Yeah, no, LOL, this was my comment into the Majority Report. I wasn't trying to say vote Green. I was just trying to get them to stop hope casting about Harris. I don't actually think they've been hope casting too badly. I think that the reality is that Harris is in a position to win. I think a lot of people have a vested interest in making this seem like a closer horse race. If you look at CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they want everybody to be sweating bullets. So they're constantly refreshing their phones. They're constantly taking in all of this data. But if you look at the kind of people who are traditionally very spot on the money when it comes to election forecasting, we call Michael Moore the Michael Moracle on this podcast, because he's not only really good at predicting the general election outcome, he got both Obama races correct. He got the Hillary loss to Donald Trump correct. He got Joe Biden's election correct. He also is really good at telling midterm swings. So that's a guy I like to take really close consideration into how they're looking at the election. And the guy's not even making the rounds right now because he's like, there's nothing for me to say. I don't want to lie in front of traffic for Kamala Harris. She's obviously the better choice from Donald Trump. She's not going to be an answer when it comes to stopping the genocide in Gaza unless we absolutely force her to, but at the end of the day, she's going to win the election pretty easily based off of all the legitimate polling. The other thing I think it's really important for people to understand is there's a lot of cheap dog shit polls that are manipulating the RCP totals. And if you don't know how to spot those, it can look like we're in much more dire straits than we are.
Yep, absolutely. Shout out to you, Joe. Thank you so much for sending us a message, though. Hope you enjoy our commentary on the discussion that you kind of prompted.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think that's true. If we keep electing the Republicans over and over again, the idea that we're going to be closer to an end to an imperialism and capitalism is just bonkers. It is bonkers.
That's what you say if you're a Green Party person.
We have evidence of this over and over again in my lifetime alone. 8 years of Reagan, 4 years followed up with George Herbert Walker Bush. What did it bring us? It brought us a Democratic Party to the right, significantly to the right of where it was 12 years earlier. Significantly. And then after
yeah, isn't that basically what Tom Frank's book Listen Liberal is all about? How the Bill Clinton administration just like massively moved to the right in response to 3 terms of Republican rule, the whole triangulation theory.
Exactly. And he actually traces it back to the McGovern Commission and talks about how that's where it began, and how even though Jimmy Carter had, a good sensibility, he was trying his best. I think you could honestly say that from a character perspective, Jimmy Carter has the best character of any president of the modern era.
Easily, yeah.
And even he was so inept at navigating this because he was a peanut farmer. And obviously he was a super shrill, sharp politician that was able to make it to that level. You don't just become president on accident, even if you are getting the title because of the Watergate backlash and people wanting a more humble, respectable working man kind of a president. But anyway, that guy was also the catalyst of that, and then that gave way to the Reagan era, and then of course Bill Clinton, Ross Perot. We've talked about a lot. We even brought it up on this exact live stream, talking about how because he took away so much from Herbert Walker Bush because he was running as a guy who was really pissed off about him raising the taxes when he promised he wasn't going to raise taxes, right? They learned the wrong lesson, and it's the economy, stupid. We gotta pass NAFTA and do tax breaks for the richest among us, so that the trickle down economy leads us into the 21st century.
And obviously that's not to say that if Democrats just won every election, then things would become good in this country. Obviously not. No, corporations are in charge. Corporations are going to corrupt any politician they can, Democrat or Republican. But what is true is that from an activist perspective, from a left flank perspective, you'd rather be operating under a Democratic administration than a fascist Republican administration. It's not exactly like complicated. You know what I'm saying? It's just like talk to any activist. You know what I'm saying? Anyone that says, it'll be easier for me to achieve my goals as an activist under Donald Trump is not a serious activist, at least on the left.
8 years of George W. Bush. Where did that bring us? It extended that even and really didn't change until there was a fundamental change on the ground with people that I think was largely associated with the time from the end of so-called end of the Cold War, at least the demise of the Soviet Union. So there is absolutely no evidence. And in fact, it's contrary to all of the experience of the past 60, 70 years that the Democratic Party is the most effective roadblock. No, they're both roadblocks, but one is just bigger and more robust, and we have less power to dismantle it. And that is the Republican Party.
Yeah. I just get impatient with this. Time to deal with reality. I don't understand. We're in a truncated period of time where the election is the conversation, but after election day, we'll be back to work talking about things in a more robust manner about what's possible and how, if Harris gets elected, she can be pushed, how we can push a more progressive agenda with the squad, with other unions.
And the problem is most YouTubers who are pushing the Green Party have committed to this idea that Kamala can't be pushed left, that you can't do anything, right? So it justifies and rationalizes rationalize this political ambivalence, this doing of nothing, while also deeming yourself the most pure and righteous of everyone else, right? We're going to stand on the sidelines because that's how sophisticated we are. Like, haha, I have all of my morals while I'm watching the house burn. Haha, you think you're out here coughing and choking on the fumes and putting out the fire with buckets. You'll never do it. And it's like, well, if we get enough people in here to put out the fire with buckets, we will. You're like, you morons, I'm keeping my own self safe. Nobody will say he failed to put out the fire because I didn't even try. That's essentially the Green Party strategy, right? They also will effectively admit defeat. There was that beef you sent me from Shama Sawant, where she says that the Green Party's not in a position to win and Butch Ware has a meltdown. It's like, bro, you already announced your next run for office, which is governor, which if you're in the realm of winning, you would never even consider being a governor because you'll be positioning yourself as the vice president, you dingus.
With organizing outside of the situation. But right now, the task at hand is that we have two choices for president. And one of them is terrifying, at least to me, and should be to a lot of people, in the sense that he now has J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel and all these ghouls behind him. He's more emboldened to be anti-democratic. Some of the stuff he's talking about are essentially pogroms. Harris has a lot of problems, but at least she's not frickin' Biden. And that's the reality of the situation. So deal with it or...
And that's how most Americans are looking at it, by the way, I would say.
Like, if you don't want to deal with electoral politics, don't deal with electoral politics. But if you want to deal with electoral politics, then engage in the reality of the two choices that we have. And that's it. Like, I have respect for people that have that don't care about electoral politics and just want to focus on organizing. That's fine. That's fine.
I also agree with that point. I think there is a case to be made that, like, you know, I don't really think that electoral politics is even worth engaging in at all. I want to go set up a soup kitchen and help my own community. I don't really care about trying to change the government of the United States because it's a machine that is unchangeable. Like, you know, that's a analysis that I can sympathize with. If you're just like, I'm not going to dirty my hands by showing up to vote, I'm just going to help in my community, you know, do what you got to do. But I do think it's true. There is this certain kind of commentator, the certain kind of leftist that's like, they want to get involved in talking about electoral politics, but also the only thing they have to bring to the table is that I'm above it, right? I'm going to give my commentary, but also I'm above it. And everyone else who's talking about it is somehow like morally tainted now for even discussing the dynamic that exists, the reality that exists, which is that either Kamala or Donald Trump is going to be president. And it's like, yeah, if you're going to talk about it, you kind of have to live in reality. And to just focus all of your commentary on a LARP campaign, it's stupid. I mean, it's dumb. You don't see people like on the other side shaming Republicans for not voting for Chase Oliver or something. Like, it's just dumb.
Well, it's multifaceted, right? Because again, this Green Party movement exists on two planes. One is the real Green Party campaign, which is just existing online and Zoom calls and calling people genocide lovers on Twitter. You know, Jason Call going after Mehdi Hassan and using this as like 5 minutes of fame instead of actual activism, right? And then on the other hand, you have people who are so desperate that when they see the Green Party on the ballot, they are going to be like, that is my vote for Palestine. Right. That is my vote for ending the genocide. Now, if you ask Jill Stein what her plan is to, you know, end the genocide, she'll, you know, basically just lie to your face and be like, I'm going to get on the phone and it'll be over. And it's like, that's the kind of foreign policy analysis that Donald Trump gives, right? So, you know, clearly she's not a serious person, but the commentators that are getting behind the Green Party, they're not interested in actually taking stock of the Green Party. They're not interested in actually challenging the candidate. Instead of doing what they constantly do to every other progressive, which is nitpick them to all fuck, they become the biggest white knights, the biggest charlatans. Like,
unless she criticizes Putin.
Yeah, right. The K-hive for Jill Stein, unless she commits a cardinal sin, like triggering the Republican donors that finance their podcast.
Yep.
But then if you want to talk about electoral politics, engage in the fucking reality. It's so enraging to hear this kind of stuff all the time.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our